All right, everyone. Welcome to my first interview. I'm very excited to be joined today by a wonderful NFT artist that I've recently found on Twitter. I'd like to welcome AI Xerxes to the show for my first interview. Welcome. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining me.
No problem. It's a pleasure.
So we got started talking already a little bit, but basically, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself, talk about some of your art, talk about some of your projects that you got coming up, and some cool things that you've got going on because you've got lots of cool art.
Oh yeah. So essentially, a friend of mine, a while ago, he suggested I look at a particular artist that was making NFTs. And he said, he's like, I know you're interested in this sort of thing. Like, look at this art and like, see if you can figure out how to make it. And fast forward, I actually ended up befriending the Jeremy Torman, actually, who kind of like he's pioneered like a lot of these engineering techniques to make these particular types of pieces. So yeah, like most of the techniques that I've learned are just from chopping it up with him, and sharing tools essentially, and sharing not only tools but his particular engineering techniques, which are really awesome and involve mixing lots of different networks at once to sort of create weird creatures and styles that no one's ever seen before.
Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit. Tell me a little bit about your process, when the tools that you use, some of the different things that you combine, and where some of your ideas come from.
Right. So the greatest thing is the internet is a giant repository full of photos, and they've all been organized and categorized and indexed by humans. So there's essentially large networks of photos. So there'll be like a large network of, I don't know, 50,000 photos of trees. And essentially like there's like AI brains, you could say, that have been trained on these data sets of trees for hours and hours and hours and hours. So you can use them to render or create a tree or something that looks a lot like a tree. And the really cool thing that I think Jeremy has figured out is you can combine the tree brain with like the wet pavement brain and the robot brain and the primary color brain, and his particular engineering like prompt style for doing this is really awesome. And yeah, it's essentially a kind of more complicated version of Photoshop that's like all command line interface. You have to type everything in. But what's cool is the community behind it is amazing. Everyone shares ideas, and if you're a newcomer and you want to get started just making little basic pixel art, I mean there's a generative there's a machine learning framework for it, and someone will point you in that direction. So yeah, the community is really awesome as well.
So talking about tools, so let me kind of give you my understanding of this analogy and tell me if I'm off base or not. But when
Sure.
you teach a tool, a neural network, to know what trees look like, then becomes your brush that you can paint the shape of something else, but with a tree brush, or like you said, a tree with a wet pavement brush, for example.
Right. So essentially you have an artist's palette, the little like dish with the thumb
Mm-hmm.
hole in it, that
Mm-hmm.
artist hole,
Mm-hmm.
and it has all those little spots of paint. But each little spot of paint is a photo repository that has been organized by someone else. You know, there's huge existing ones, or you can make your own like custom
Mm-hmm.
ones, which are really cool, which end up turning out really cool because, you know, like I personally have like thousands and thousands and thousands of my own photos, you know, that I think
Mm-hmm.
are really cool looking, and I want my personal, like, you know, networks to know how to reproduce. Um, so yeah, there's an endless ocean of inspiration if you're doing this sort of thing, and you're limited really. I mean, with I don't want to sound too corny, but you're limited only by your own imagination. So yeah, like sort of it's changed
Excuse
the
me.
way I look at uh you know, I go outside on a walk now, and I tend to notice, I'm like, oh man, like why don't I use like the shiny like chrome, like a chrome texture in a car, you know? And then I'm thinking, wow, there's probably like a lot of pictures of chrome pipes, you know, on the internet, and I'm sure there's a giant photo repository of them somewhere, or I
Mm-hmm.
can find it or build it out of several smaller ones, and then I have the chrome color essentially to use.
So, so obviously, it's fascinating because we're at the next step of the evolution of the human beings can see what, you know, whatever they say, several million colors, variations of colors, but the technology that humans have had to reproduce that and make art, like when we were doing cave drawings, you had mud and blood
Oh
and
yeah.
charcoal, and that's why cave paintings all over the world are red and black, right? And as we've been able to produce millions of, you know, computers can produce more colors than the eye can see. But it sounds like what you're describing is now we're moving beyond just colors into textures and visual languages that we see as we walk around in our everyday life, and then we can use that to make new types of images. Right?
Right.
That blows my mind.
Right. And then there's really interesting uh you know, sort of concepts that um I've been thinking about and talking about, which are like, yeah, you could strap a camera to yourself and just walk around during your day, and then chop that up into a whole bunch of photos and train a neural network on that. And then you'd have essentially like a experience color, if you will. I don't know if that makes sense. And but you could use that whole walk as uh data in your
Wow.
drawing, or your render or whatever. So yeah, what's nice is a lot of the tools now you can use separate networks to render different parts of the image, so the background and foreground, and you know, where like the zoom is and whatnot. There's some nice open source tools that are available to anyone on mostly on Google Collaboratory. If you have like a Google or Gmail account, you can use them for free.
I'll have to get a link to that and I'll put it in the episode description. One of the questions that I kind of have, and one I'm sure that some people watching this are going to have, is how much of this is human input, and what, I don't know if you can put a percentage on it, but how much of it is the AI and a computer filling stuff in? Because I'm sure there are going to be some people that just say, oh, you just type a phrase into a thing and it spits out this image. Anyone could do this. Like, how much of that input is human versus
Okay,
machines?
that's a good thing. So that's a great question. So essentially, it's all human input. So I forget exactly what this. There was an AI that was trained for hours and hours on pictures of wine and pictures of socks, and I think, you know, they were showing it a picture of wine and they showed it a picture of socks, and it was getting it like 99.9% of the time it's getting it right, whether it's wine or socks. And then I don't know, they showed it a picture of like a cat or something. It's like socks, you know. So the AI, quote unquote, it's dumb. It is limited to the human engineer that sort of drives it. What I will say is it's a very powerful tool. Just because it only knows the difference between wine and socks doesn't mean it's dumb. It is one of the smartest narrow AIs, that's differentiating between these two types of images. But other than that, unless there's a human to like guide it or show it new source material, it's sort of limited by the human engineering. What I will say is that that concept is being flipped, because you could essentially have another neural network that feeds the another one. You could like group together neural networks. Actually, Ben Goertzel in his project AGI, and I think it's like Hanson Robotics too. They're developing like an open AI system that it like groups together all the narrow AIs into like they're into these like open cog modules. So it's essentially a super. So essentially, you'd have one narrow AI that's really good at playing chess, and then you'd have one that's really, really good at recognizing faces. One's really, really good at recreating Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel painting, and just like you take tens and thousands of these narrow AIs and you put them all together, and now you have something that is better than it is better at humans than everything. So
but
yeah, there's like, I understand there's like, there is this sort of like, interesting, thing, like humans sort of like cling to this idea that we're like this pure, like creative, organic force, but yeah, I don't know, like if something that is capable of, sort of indexing all of that creative force and using all of it at the same time, like you could say that's better,
So
like,
what you're saying
yeah,
is
some guy,
the Matrix is coming and we're all gonna die because the machine will learn how to draw art and then decide to kill us all to make better art. So that's something I've been fascinated with my entire life, but I don't know that we're quite there yet.
Xerxes will spare your life and your followers' life for conducting this interview. Yes, I don't know if you're familiar with Rocco's basilisk. It's a It's a thought experiment, which essentially, postulates that if there is a super intelligent AI in the future, it most likely would punish and torture those who didn't help bring about its existence.
So we're in the clear, right?
Right. Right.
That's awesome.
So yeah, your lives will be spared, everyone.
Right,
don't worry.
That's good. So let's talk about a couple of your works. I'm on your Twitter page right now, and we'll just talk about a couple of them that you've got displayed there. Again, everyone, I'll put AI Xerxes. It's just at AI_X Xerxes on Twitter, and I'll put that on the screen right now, and I'll put that in the show description. And you've got some pieces up here now. So tell me about me in the bathroom.
Yeah. So I don't know. A lot of NFT artists, like we have normal jobs, or we had normal jobs before we got into this. And I mean, if you're an artist and you have to work hourly, it's kind of intense. And I'm not trying to, it's tough for a creative mind to have to abide to like a rigid schedule. Mm-hmm. So yeah, like, there's times where, like, wow, you're at work and you're so bored and you want to leave so badly and you just don't want to be there. You'd rather just go to the bathroom and just like sit in the bathroom for like 10 minutes and deal with anything.
Yeah.
So we've all been there. That was sort of the inspiration for that piece. And yeah, I was just, I used, like a network of like bathroom pictures, and then also tile, and then also a doodle of like myself, and then also subsequently a picture of myself in my own bathroom, all like sort of mixed together.
And where did the mecha mosquitoes come from? Because that's what I see, or like a dragonfly.
Right. So like I think because there's like my like in bathrooms too, like a lot of the bathroom photos, there's things left out on like counters, like razor blades or like a nail trimmer or something. And yeah, I think what the question you're asking is like, why are those things coming out? And the answer is, we don't know.
So can I make a guess and you tell me what you think? Sure. So it sees a razor, like a Gillette razor sitting on a porcelain thing, right. And it goes, okay, this isn't a glass of wine, this isn't a sock, but it kind of looks vaguely maybe like something else I've seen before. So I'm going to say that it's a mechanical mosquito hovering in midair.
Yeah. I mean, and then, or if there was a very reflective surface behind it, it might think it's a separate object, or it's hovering.
I can see that.
So there is a like, without getting too nerdy about this, like one of the older,
get as nerdy as you
want. One of the older implementations of like one of the older machine learning frameworks. There's this data set that like I've used a lot, which is a data set of faces all from Flickr, and they're in high quality. And it's the analogy I've heard is you want to start with something. So like you can start training a network, from scratch, but like a network that already knows how to draw faces really, really well is going to be better at drawing like rockets and pipes than one that doesn't know that. If that makes sense.
A little bit.
Right. So, so like, if it goes and it's looking at all these pictures of faces and hair, it's going to be able to render things in that type of detail. And especially hair is actually a really good thing to use, because it has a lot of like dynamic color in it, and it reflects light. And it's very detailed. Yeah.
So you mean hair is a good example of how to teach a neural network what objects look like in real life? Or them more faithfully. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Kind of. Or it's a good dynamic source of fuel, I guess you could say.
Okay. So let's talk about one or two more, because the only time constraint I have, like, this is a fascinating conversation, but the time constraint I have is that I work with my phone to edit and post everything. So if we talk too long, I'm afraid we're not going to be able to get at it. But let's talk about me at work, which I said was like scary robot Santa Claus in his futuristic workshop.
Yeah, I will say I used to be a veterinary technician, so that's where the inspiration from that piece comes from, is being in a veterinary like treatment room.
And then so again, do you know, like, when you say that, I can see, like I see the shelves with, little colored boxes on them that be in a doctor's office, where like gauze and tongue depressors would be and stuff. So that's kind of made up faithfully, but then you have this like glowing laser IV bag in the middle of the room, and I don't know where that came from, right? But
right. So that's all the engineering part. So I could like create, just using images that are available, like lots of pictures of offices, and I could create something that looks like an office. So I'd say that's like would be like the base for the image. And then on top of that, you can start mixing in your networks for objects in the foreground and background and whatnot. So that is up to the engineer, and it is not as easy as it sounds. You have to have a a particular kind of brain to think of things. I guess an example would be you if you're using descriptor prompts, you want to be very descriptive. So I maybe would want, say, someone who plays like Halo, right? I would want a picture of, I would want to use the texture of the Halo game in one of my pieces just for a foreground image, mixed with several other networks, like a weird wizard Santa Claus, beard, and then also pictures
who's dressed vaguely as Master Chief,
right? Or and then also pictures of me, and then like pictures of like weird drawings I've done, like of like video game characters. So it's as a engineer, when you're making this stuff, it's your job to not put anything in a box and kind of use everything that you think you need to get what you want. And I will say, thanks for the compliments on a lot of my pieces, but there are some minds in this space that are much further ahead of me as far as access to tools to make things and make things in higher resolutions, and then also access to hardware, to render things in higher resolutions. So there is, if you're an independent artist, you are limited in a way. You don't have the hash power of DreamWorks to render, massive, these things massively in 8K resolution, super resolution. But there's tools slowly being made to
that's all coming, right?
Yeah, get things there for and get things there for everyone, and not have it be like centralized, like, and I don't know, there's got to be some way. Crypto's amazing, there's got to be some way to make it fair or incentivize, decentralization of like hash power. And so that's sort of exciting that everyone sort of has the keys to this tech. Maybe not in like the amount that you want, but enough to make something really, really special and unique.
So allow me to make another clumsy analogy. So right now, websites like This Person Does Not Exist, or Deep Vision, where you just take a picture and overlay it with a classic paint. There's a bunch of those out right now. Again, it's not a one-to-one comparison, but that seems to me to be like the MS Paint of the future of this space. The stuff that you and your friends that are doing this are developing new tools on the fly to get done what you envision.
Totally.
And gradually these will migrate to become more and more available to anyone who has an idea, right?
Right. I mean, I will say, like, I've only been doing this, for getting deeply into this. I am an artist, an audio and visual artist, but this particular type of art, I've only seriously been into for a little less than a year now. So I am not the best historian when it comes to this stuff, but I do have a vague sort of timeline. Like, sort of what you're talking about is, like, I remember seeing Google Deep Dream, and I made some things with it. And what was funny is it was just this giant image repository. And what was funny is, like, whenever you used it, there were like pictures of like dogs would just be appearing like in your photo, like dog faces and eyes, and, would be appearing everywhere. And then it was kind of interesting. It was like, a lot of the pictures on the internet are pictures of dogs. Because people are constantly taking photos of their dogs. So it's like that network was like weighted more heavily to make weird dog, combinations. So again, like I am not the best person to explain like sort of the tech and the history of how all of this evolved. But it's it's gone through lots of stages, and it has a long way to go. A long way to go.
Wow,
It's very exciting.
it's fascinating. It's fascinating, and I'm very excited to talk about some of this stuff as it becomes available. So, like I said, I want to get through a couple more things. First of which, you have a drop on OpenSea this weekend.
Right. Yeah. So that drop is essentially, I use like a more like old school, essentially I I decided to make a bunch of like the Board Yacht Ape Club
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
uh apes. I decided to just like train an entire data set on those apes and then mix it with a couple of my own neural networks, and I rendered like a whole bunch of them. And I actually we actually got Blute to like offer them as like, if you're a Blute holder, you could like mint one of these for free.
Nice.
Just so
Nice.
just so I didn't want to like, I feel like the NFT scene is so oversaturated with like, just it's like a bazaar or like fish market. Everyone's just like screaming at the top of their lungs,
Yep.
so
Yep.
and
Yep, for
and
sure.
plus with this sort of art, you know I feel like I don't want to put anything out there that I know is not going to stand the test of time,
Mm-hmm.
so I feel like that was a good representation. It was like, okay, these Board Yacht Ape Club things are like insanely valuable now, and there's a whole community, and I want to just like do like an abstraction of that. So after that, yeah, there was significant interest like randomly from a lot of people. So yeah, I got a community together, and now there's it's I'm not really as involved. There's a very experienced team now like handling a lot of this, and there's going to be a subsequent ecosystem. Like your pieces will be essentially like keys to something special. Yeah, I'm very excited for that. It's taken a long time, and it's hard. It's really hard to like do a drop successfully now. But yeah, I feel like these pieces, people will want to like. I don't want people to be flipping them. I want
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
this to be like more of a this. If you want one of these keys now, you can get them for very cheap.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
and then yeah, I will say, me and my partner are NFT house builders. So if you need your house scanned and you want crazy 3D objects rendered in, so when your friends come over with their Google lenses on, you can all play ping pong in the living room without a real ping pong table and ping pong
Okay.
paddles and ball, that's a possibility. So I don't want to like give away what like this whole ecosystem has the potential to be, but yeah, it's sort of like anything in the crypto space. I mean, the potential is unlimited, and you don't want to like put too much on your plate all at once, or like get people to like expect something very quickly. But yeah, people are more used to things like this now.
Yeah.
Like the way
Yeah.
Cyberpunk came out, that game came out, and there were such high expectations for it, and it was buggy in the beginning, and everyone was like, what the hell, but yeah, after a while, after waiting, and they did development, and they built this amazing universe, and now it's here to stay. I mean, speaking of sort of styles to borrow from, yeah, like photos of cyberpunk scenes, like that's some really juicy material to use if you're making AI art, is different types of video games, and like scenes from video games.
Wow, that's fascinating. So I hope you want to share more about that as it gets developed. I have so many more questions for you. I thought we were only going to talk for about 10 minutes, but this has been a fascinating conversation.
For sure.
So what I want to end with is Hoskinson 2030. So I'll put that up on the screen now.
Oh
Just
yeah.
give me a brief 30-second pitch on how you came up with this idea.
It was pretty much, I'm like, I really like Cardano. And now that there's like smart contracts and subsequent like token market, like NFT marketplaces, and even like NFT token escrow services. I've seen some really interesting things pop up. I thought, okay, like what better way to sort of like kind of wave my flag than be like, hey, look, I rendered a crazy version of the guy who made this network. And because I know everyone recognizes his face. The trouble was finding enough pictures of his face that were different enough, because a lot of his like Charles Hoskinson, a lot of his like the pictures of his face, like there's some like cartoony renders of his face, like there's that one picture of him smoking a cigar, and like but most of the images are him just like vlogging like from a standstill. So Charles, if you see this, I want to make you an avatar that you can talk out of, and it can change into anything you want, and it can have big fangs and have boogers come out of its nose as you talk if you want, and then you don't have to, you can just stay in your pajamas. You don't have to worry about getting ready for your vlogs.
You can just
park yourself
slip
in front
on
of the
your
computer.
NFT skin, slip on your NFT skin, and you're ready to go out the door.
Right? Yeah, exactly. So hit me up if you want one of those. I'd love to make one for you.
That's amazing. I'll be sure to tag him when I post this video. But what I'm very excited to announce that you have, obviously this is that CNFT show. We're talking about NFTs on Cardano. And I know that as you move into the Cardano space and we have some more features available, you and I have talked about you're going to be developing some things for the Cardano ecosystem as well. But right now, I'm very excited to announce that you've agreed to give this piece away.
Yeah.
So viewers, we're going to do the same type of contest this weekend that we just did this week, where you'll be following me. Follow AI Xerxes on Twitter. And if you're not subscribed already, I'd love it if you liked and subscribed the show. We're going to run this giveaway over the weekend to kind of coincide with your drop over on OpenSea, and then we'll give away this guy on Monday, which I'm super excited about, and I'm very thankful that you were kind enough to give away a piece which is really cool like this.
Oh yeah, of course. I don't know. It's just there's a lot of I've just seen a lot of like gifting and random. I mean, there's some companies, like corporate companies, that do that stupid random acts of kindness, or like Honda, what helps you, or random acts of helpfulness or whatever. No, the NFT space is where it's at. I mean, I've seen people that have gotten their NFTs stolen, and the creators have like made a fund and gotten all the people's money back. I mean, there's some, as many scams as there are, there's some really generous people. And it's just sort of, I want to share this for that reason. I've gotten random art airdropped into my into my Cardano wallet. That's amazing. So even someone sent me a free NFT from this photographer, and was like, I'm also going to send you some Cardano, and you can decide to buy one of her works, if another piece with it, if you choose or not. I was like, oh my goodness. Well, of course I'm going to buy a piece, and especially, 27 ADA, that's a bargain for, some of these like really nice photos. So like, there is a nice community. That's sort of the most important part about all this tech is, the community is really unstoppable. I wish there was a little less kind of like hastily drawn cartoon art.
For sure.
That's like the vanilla ice cream of that's just everywhere. It's the vanilla.
That sector of NFTs, I think, is getting oversaturated. And unless it's a project, I feel now that has, like you said, it's got to be the key to something in the future, royalties, use case, early access. Like you can't just put out a set. You can't just put out a set of 10,000 that you bought on Fiverr.
Right. For example, for example, like a lot of, Discords will have thousands and thousands of members. But you look, there's only like, there's like 100 holders or something. It's like, okay, what's going on here? So yeah, like our Discord is, like we have less than 1,000, like members in the Discord, but all of them are holders, so it's a very interesting, it's just a different, it's a different sort of, NFT, like utility than what is traditionally sort of thought like, oh, I can like buy this sort of like buying a house and I can flip it, for money. But really, like what's more valuable is this is a key to not maybe a house or piece of property, but maybe a whole universe. And there's only there's a limited amount of these keys. So yeah, that's sort of the my personal like sort of goal with this project is like, have some sort of like digital paradise eventually that you can have access to, and something special that like some corporate company couldn't just recreate, or something that's impossible to reverse engineer.
Right. And they're going to try eventually. But
they already are.
Like you said earlier, we're so early to this space that anyone who owns an NFT is a pioneer. And whether you're building them, buying them, trading them, holding them, using them for these advanced use cases, it's all like we're at the beginning of the exponential takeoff here.
Right. And I will say, in true fashion, Xerxes is not one artist anymore.
Okay.
Xerxes is now a combination of, I guess we're the human pets of Xerxes, me and my partner. I'd also like to just shout out Jeremy Torman one more time, because he's provided me with so many amazing tools and insight and ways to modify code, to sort of do what I want. Also, a couple of close friends of mine who are amazing artists themselves. Their input and opinions really, really matter. So eventually, Xerxes, this AI Xerxes node will be more of a collective, like a creation collective than just hi, I'm this artist, buy my stuff.
That's excellent. Well, thank you very much. This was a fascinating conversation. I'd love to have you on again, particularly as you release more of your work or have any more projects on the go that you want to share with me and share with my viewers, because this is a fascinating space. As I said before we got on the air and I started recording, I have like a layperson's understanding of this, but to talk to someone who actually builds these things and is using these like super, and you said yourself, you're not quite at the tip of the spear yet, but more than 99.99999% of the people who are ever going to use this stuff.
Well, and you're part of,
you're going to go forward as well. Yeah.
And you're part of that like tiny percentage that knows about crypto technology. Yeah. So I mean, everyone is part of such a small group right now, and it's just growing at such an exponential rate. I feel very lucky to have gotten introduced to the things that I've gotten introduced to in the time.
It's an amazing time. It's an amazing time to be alive.
Right.
So. All right. So that's going to wrap up our conversation for today. Like I said, I'd love to have you back on anytime you want to talk, because we talked about some really cool stuff. And thank you very much again for the giveaway. We'll be in touch over the weekend.
Yeah, for sure. I'll send that to whoever wins.
Awesome. So I'm going to sign off on the call now, but we'll talk a bit more after we get off. To all the viewers, thank you very much for joining us. This went on a little bit longer than I planned, but it could have gone on for 2 or 3 times as long as this, because obviously we had lots of cool stuff to talk about. So Xerxes, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for joining me, and everyone at home. I hope you like the artwork. Go to Twitter and check out that giveaway, and give Xerxes a follow on Twitter as well. And we're all going to grow together. So thank you very much.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much, Alex. This was great. And I will plug one final thing. There's 46 hours left until the drop.
All right.
So if you're good at math,
soon, eh?
you can figure out what that is in your local time zone. But the site should reflect the time in wherever time zone you're at, given you're not using a VPN or something, or a DVPN even. But that's a conversation for another time.
Okay. We'll make sure we post the links in the description, and I'll send everything out on Twitter as well. Thanks again.
Awesome. Thank you.